Oh man, does my hair look like that? Sheesh, no wonder no one watches my videos. I look like a hobo. How you doing, Cashmere? You wanted to be in the video? Just right here. Yeah. That looks good. Oh yeah, definitely much better. Welcome back everyone to Pokemon TCAA. I am your host, Lee Satoshi. We are now on episode 3. And in case you're just joining us and you're new here, Pokemon TCAA stands for Pokemon Trading Card Art Alters. And in our previous episodes, we have encountered a Cubone and we've encountered a Pikachu on our quest to paint them all. And that leaves us now a total of 149 Pokemon to go. So let's answer the question we do on every episode, and that is, what are we going to encounter this week? You know, that's weird. I could have sworn there was a Pokemon that was going to pop up by now. My phone's ringing. Oh, you're saying that I can't catch every single Pokemon in the same patch of grass? I have to actually go outside and explore? Wow. That's a lot of Pokemon. But they're all in the water. How am I supposed to catch them? Oh, my phone ringing again. Hello? So what you're saying is, I need to use a fishing rod to catch those Pokemon? Doesn't hurt to try, I guess. Oh, let me get my fishing rod out. Here we go. Let me pull out some line. Alright, I got a bite. Alrighty, so we just start off as we usually do, just by putting on a first base coat of pure white acrylic. And as I've done with the other cards, you always want to make sure that you put a nice thick coat, so that way you can start seeing where it is that you had to cover more with the paint. And after that, just pass it over with my handy little heat gun, then making sure that everything is nice and dry before I start throwing on more coats. And this time around I found it a lot more easier, I guess because I'm starting to get used to it and forming a system around this. But yeah, now Kingler is an interesting Pokemon because he's actually one of my favorites, just for the fact that He's so normal looking that you can just mistake it for an anime crab. But what makes him so boss is the fact that his head is literally the shape of a crown. And he has a freaking massive claw. Who doesn't like that? I know I do. So I had a blast working on this card. But before we can get to the fun stuff, still got a couple of layers of white paint to go. That way we can completely get rid of the image and have something nice and opaque for our canvas. And gotta admit that it's not as easy to work with Pokemon that have abstract body structures, just for the fact that my workspace is so tiny. Not my actual desk, but the canvas size, because if you guys are just watching this episode or seeing this kind of video for the first time, I only have about 1.5 inches vertically and 1 inch horizontally to work, so not a lot of room for error, as you have seen in the past or will see in this episode. But this is looking pretty good opaque wise, so I think I'm just going to be drying it here for now and just calling it complete, I guess you could say. Yeah, just making sure it's not tacky. And as you can see, as much as I heat up this card and a piece of acrylic, the board starts to warp, so I just pat it down. And here we go. We're gonna start the sketch. Now my idea for Kingler was pretty simple. Just get the basic shapes of what a crab looks like, and then from there start exaggerating certain characteristics. And I do love that Kingler has like a really kind of like cleft jaw / chin, so it gets me some space to play around with structure. That's the word. And after that, I just went to town and, just started adding the details as needed. And I found it a lot more relaxing to work with ocean kind of animals / Pokemon. So yeah, it felt really nice working on Kingler. And I already had an idea what I wanted, so it wasn't that hard. Much like the Pikachu, I didn't have to actually prep a sketch ahead of time. I just worked with whatever came out the top of my head. So yeah, that's about it. So now, as you'll see, his mom were different than last time. I'm actually using a kneaded eraser. I totally forgot that I had a couple of these lying around, and they're brand new, brand spanking condition. So yeah, a reason why I'm using this as opposed to the other one, because I can press down with it and erase a lot of the graphite, but not enough to the point where I can't see anymore my actual outline, which helps me tremendously when it comes to inking. So that way when I want to when I want to erase the ink, it won't smudge. I'll just have the ink outline, which will make it look a lot more crisp, which is what I've been wanting to do since the beginning, but I didn't figure out a system till actually this episode, which was when I was working on Kingler. So yeah, here I'm going with inking. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's the best way to go about working with writing on top of a white acrylic base, because from what I've seen, it works. I can't even speak English. What I meant to say, it works well with this marker Sharpie pen that I'm wearing. God. Why is English so hard? The Sharpie marker pen is what I'm trying to say that I'm working with. It does take it well, but it can only go so far before it starts getting a bit streaky, as you'll see there. Then I just gonna call it quits on that, and I switch over to my good old trusty fat Sharpie marker, which is great because we already got the base of what we wanted to look like with the ink down. So now I just want to add some highlights to the areas that I would like more pop, if you would say, to appear. And from there, I think it's just a matter of now I go about adding some detail, more like giving some little detail lines as to give an idea or the illusion of shadows. So it's really nice. Well, not much else to say from there. I think, yeah, we're done here with the inking, basically. So now we want to coloring. Busting out my handy dandy crayons. I didn't have to use such a robust palette this time around. I only used 6 colors, and Kingler only uses 2 colors, so the rest I actually use it just for the background, as you'll see. But right off the bat, it's kind of hard because Kingler has different coloration depending on what you're looking at. If you're looking at official game artwork, he has a very light palish tan coat for the bottom part of, well, his anatomy, and he has that bright red on the top. So I wanted to see if there's any drastic differences between the artwork and the Pokemon card that I'm altering now. Maybe you saw it before I began the alter. It has a very dark brown bottom, and I didn't like that because crabs, although they do have brown, are usually a lot more colorful, so I wanted to make sure that everything popped a lot more. So that's why I'm going with like a nice, like, dirty orange color for the bottom and a nice bright red orange for the top. And I gotta say, so far I absolutely love how it came out. So I'm just gonna finish up here with the coloring, at least of Kingler, and then I start focusing my attention on giving that those fine details all around. Yeah, real nice. And after that, Kingler's all done, so we just move on to the background. And the background was pretty easy to do because I wanted to make sure I didn't stray too far from the source material, which was the card that I'm altering right now. And it has a pretty basic background. It's just blue in the back with some yellow and purple floor. It looks like potholes, underwater potholes. Is that a thing? I don't know. I don't live in the ocean, but if there is, I'm pretty sure it exists. So I gave it, instead of a yellow background, blue and purple, so that way it complements and helps the colors from Kingler pop even more, which you can see right there. Nothing too complicated. So then I go over with some violet red. It's a weird color, but it works because I wanted to give it some seaweed to make it look more aquatic, the card, instead of just having Kingler in a plain background. You know me, maybe you don't, I don't know, I can't tell. I like to give nice crayon based backgrounds instead of just doing everything with the Sharpie outline. I only give the details with the Sharpies, but I love giving the basic shapes with crayons. You gotta give crayons them love as well, you know? And they're a wonderful tool once you learn how to use them well. I'm telling you from personal experience because I'm still working with it, but so far from what I've seen in my experiences, that I definitely prefer working with crayon over anything. Does it seem childish? Yeah, I guess you can say that, but for me, I personally prefer it because it gives it a unique texture. And I know a lot of artists don't like texture, but hey, it gives these cards a unique feel to them, you know? So here I am basically wrapping up this Kingler, so we just about finished, you know? Just add some dots and call it a day. Yeah. So, after many delays and exploring a new environment and exploring a new method of finding Pokemon, we have ourselves a Kingler card, which brings our total up to now 3 cards that we have been able to alter. And now that just leaves us 148 more to go. And that number is only to get smaller as these episodes continue to come out. So thank you so much for watching, and that wraps up this episode of Pokemon TCAA. I am your host, Satoshi, and I'll be here to see you for the next one.